Hello and welcome to today's video. My name is Joseph. I hope everyone is doing well today. So in today's video, I'm actually going to be doing something a bit more novel, in my opinion. And I'm actually going to I've created a little tutorial explaining how to do multiple rooms and doors in Gamemaker Studio 2. So before I get in, you guys are great. You have no idea. Again, keep the suggestions rolling in. I'm always happy to look at them. Don't forget about the Discord and all that jazz. So, let's get into the video. What have I done? Well, I'm going to show you as I always do. Now, there are still a couple of bugs in here, but it's fine. So, here you can see my player, and basically it does a wall collision, and you can see here I can actually interact with the doors. I can open them, I can close them, and if I go down here, I can actually jump to the next room. And you can see here, again, I can go through and interact with doors. So, what will happen, just as a note, I don't have some sort of position finder here or memory system in place to memorize if a door's left open or not. But for the example of this, you can kind of see how you can get some basic doors working with some basic interactions to show the player what state the door's in and if they can interact with the door. For example, the red indicates I can't close a door while I'm standing in the doorway. Obvious stuff. Let's get into what this actually looks like. So, this one's a little bit more spritey, for a lack of a better word. So, let's look at the player first. So, in the player character, I've created one variable, which basically checks to see if the player is moving. If the player is moving, it then disables the function for all the other move sets to stop the player from being able to move in multiple directions at the same time. Just some basic cleanup. Not the best way to do it, but it works for what I need it to do. Next, I run the same kind of collision sets I've run in previous systems. The only thing I've changed here, because I'm being lazy, is just a line function. So I'm just scanning a line instead of a square. Just makes my life a little quicker. And this is repeated for all steps, so all I'm doing is just drawing a line exactly 1 pixel in front of the player, and that is it. So basically the way this code breaks down, player moves, move is equal to false, correct. Move is set to true after end function, and then it will stop any other one from activating. Be warned, the way this code reads is very important. AKA, if you're moving left, left will take the dominant seat regardless. And then up, then down, then right, then down. Then it resets itself. It's important because I've been lazy about this. There's other ways to get around this, but this is not a be-all and end-all solution. This basically just takes dominance to whatever one is first in the set to read. You've been warned. Other than that, though, pretty straightforward. It basically just lets your player move. Okay. The wall. The only thing that's been changed is it's been flagged as solid. Nothing fancy there, because we're checking in the player if it can move through an object or not. Next two are just the jump points. These just set their image alpha to 0, so you can't see them, but they're in the room. And then it just tells you to jump to whichever room you want to go. For example, this one's going to room 2, the other one's going to room 1. So they're just mirrors of each other coming back and forth. The door. This is the slightly more complicated thing. So, the first thing that I do is I set a couple of values so the door knows kind of what states it's in. So, the first one is the door active, false. Is the player in the doorway, false. And can I draw the doorway, yes or no? And that's just to show you if the door's open or not. So, let's get into actually what's going on here. So the first line here is I actually run a collision check. And just as a note, you could embed that part there into an array and then have multiple objects all communicate back and forth. But in here, what I'm doing is drawing a rectangle. I'm drawing it at -8, so above my actual draw point. And positive 40 below or further down than my draw point. This allows me to create a big capture net to basically draw a big square to see if the player's in that square to move to the next step. So if the player is in this square, we set to the door is active. So the door being active will jump to in here. So you'll see that I've got door active equals true. Then I draw basically a blue square on it to indicate to the player that it's active. Next, I do a check to see if the player's within the doorway. And if the player's within the doorway, we can't do any interaction with the door. So we can't activate or deactivate. The door remains now inactive. And the doorway is set to true, which then deactivates this first blue square and draws a red square. Same principle, just to indicate to the player that you can't do anything. Plain and simple. And if this is a false, we just set it back to false. Next, in our collision, we also then set the door, if it's no longer colliding, we set it back to false because it's no longer active. We're no longer within an interaction space of that object. The next step, if you guys are familiar with some of my other videos, this is to interact with the door itself. So we actually check the position of the X, Y of the mouse as well as all objects, and we reference our own ID to see if it's our ID we're interacting with. If so, the mouse button press, and if the door is active, meaning that we're not in the doorway, will allow us to either turn the door on and off. So here you'll see all I do is the door, are we drawing the door? True. Then draw our door as false and set our stat as false for solid, which means our player can move through it, else do the reverse. Pretty straightforward. And then under the draw, the only thing I haven't covered is this here, which just basically says to draw itself. In saying that, that's all there is to these doors. So it's not super complicated, but it's a cool little way of doing things. Obviously, the horizontal's the same way. The only thing that's flipped are these values here. These have just changed roles. So, should be a nice, easy tutorial. I'm going to throw it up in the Google Drive. As you can see, you get a nice bit of a result. Some of the bugs that most likely do need to be fixed in this here. One, I'm not massively happy with the move function, only because it feels a bit laggy in my opinion, but that's me. But this here, we do need to set up, or really ideally if you're going to use this, I'd be setting up a way to memorize where specific objects are. Just as a note, if you're going to do that, make sure you memorize that the player's off that point there, because otherwise you're going to get stuck in an infinite loop. Just forewarned. But yeah, that's today's video. Thank you all for watching. You guys are amazing. Don't forget about the Discord server and all that jazz. I'll put this up in the Google Drive, and I will see you guys next time. See you later.